The text came through at 7:43 p.m. while I was plating his favorite meal. 6 words that would change everything. Staying at Chloe's tonight. Don't wait. I stared at the screen. Wooden spoon suspended midair. As something inside me quietly shattered and reformed into something harder. Sharper. More dangerous than Mason Thorne had ever imagined I could be. I set the spoon down with deliberate calm. Watching the sauce bubble and burn on the stove, the acrid smell filled our apartment. Though I suppose I should stop thinking of it as ours. It had always been mine. Really. My name on the lease. My credit card paying the rent. My savings depleted month after month, while Mason pursued his dreams and made promises about our future that now tasted as bitter as the smoke curling from the ruined dinner. For 2 years, I had been the perfect girlfriend. Vivian Vance. 25. Software designer with a steady income and an apparently endless capacity for understanding. I paid for his gym membership because physical fitness was important for his mental health. I covered his car insurance because he needed reliable transportation for job interviews that somehow never materialized into offers. I bought the groceries, paid for our dates, and even funded his weekend trips with the boys because everyone needed to decompress. The signs had been there for weeks. The way he turned his phone face down whenever a notification came through, the sudden increase in late work meetings at a job that barely paid minimum wage, the new cologne that wasn't the one I had bought him for Christmas. Chloe from accounting, with her innocent smile and helpful nature. Always texting about work schedules and team projects. I had been naive. Or perhaps I had simply chosen not to see what was directly in front of me. I turned off the stove and surveyed the ruined meal with a strange sense of satisfaction. Then I pulled out my phone and typed a response with steady fingers. Thanks for letting me know. 3 words. No emotion. No questions. No pleading or crying or demanding explanations. Just acknowledgement. I could almost feel his confusion through the digital space between us. Waiting for the hysteria. The calls. The desperate texts begging him to come home. He would wait a very long time. My father's voice echoed in my memory. Something he had told me after my first heartbreak at 16. A man who hides his phone has already left in his heart. The body just hasn't caught up yet. I had thought him cynical then. Now I understood he had been preparing me for this moment. I moved through the apartment with methodical precision, pulling empty boxes from the closet where I stored them for recycling. Each one would serve a different purpose tonight. Mason's clothes went into the first box, folded with the same care I had shown when washing and organizing them week after week. His gaming console and controllers nestled into the second. Wrapped in the t-shirts he left scattered across our bedroom floor. His collection of expensive sneakers, purchased with money he claimed to be saving for our future engagement, filled 3 more boxes. Every item I packed felt like removing a splinter from my skin. The hooded sweatshirt I had worn on lazy Sunday mornings. The watch I had bought him for his birthday. The stack of self-help books he never read but displayed prominently to show his commitment to personal growth. All of it went into boxes, sealed with tape and labeled with black marker in my neat handwriting. By midnight, 17 boxes stood stacked by the door. Everything Mason Thorne had brought into my life. Everything he had accumulated during our relationship. Everything that carried his scent or held his memory. I loaded them into my car, making 3 trips up and down the stairs. My muscles burning with the effort, but my mind crystal clear. The drive to Chloe's apartment complex took 20 minutes. I knew where she lived because Mason had needed me to drop him off once when his car was in the shop. For a work emergency, he had said. I had believed him then. Sitting in my car outside her building, never imagining he was already laying the groundwork for this betrayal. Fortune smiled on me in the form of a pizza delivery driver exiting the building as I arrived. The security door propped open just long enough for me to slip inside with the first load of boxes. The universe, it seemed, was on my side tonight. I made trip after trip, my footsteps silent on the carpeted hallway, until all 17 boxes formed a monument to Mason's choices directly in front of Chloe's door. The final touch was a piece of paper, folded once and placed on top of the highest box, Mason's belongings. He's yours now. Vivian. I took a photo, not for social media or revenge, but as proof to myself that I had done this. That I had taken action instead of crying into my wine glass or calling my friends for comfort. The image showed the boxes blocking Chloe's doorway. My note visible on top. A perfect tableau of consequences delivered without drama or destruction. The drive home felt like flying. I had already texted the emergency locksmith, paying the extra fee for immediate service without hesitation. By the time I walked back into my apartment, he was waiting in the hallway. Tools in hand and no questions asked. Within an hour, I had new locks, new keys, and a new sense of security. I spent the remaining hours before dawn systematically erasing Mason from my digital life. Netflix password changed. Spotify family plan reduced to individual. Amazon Prime removed from his devices. Credit card canceled and new one ordered. Gym membership transferred to individual. Every shared account severed. Every financial tie cut. Every digital connection blocked. His first call came at 6:47 a.m. I let it ring, making myself coffee while his name flashed on my screen. Then came the texts. A cascade of increasingly frantic messages that I read with detached interest. What the fuck, Vivian? You changed the locks? This isn't funny. Where is my stuff? You can't just kick me out. We need to talk. Please answer. This is insane. You're overreacting. Nothing happened with Chloe. I sipped my coffee and watched the sunrise paint my living room gold. Nothing happened with Chloe. The lie was so predictable it was almost disappointing. I had expected more creativity from someone who had managed to deceive me for weeks. Possibly months. When he called from a different number an hour later, I answered on the third ring. Vivian. Thank God. What is wrong with you? I came home and the locks are changed and my stuff is gone and you're not answering and this is completely crazy. His voice held the perfect blend of confusion and indignation. The tone of a man wrongly accused. If I hadn't seen his text with my own eyes, I might have doubted myself. You texted me that you were staying at Chloe's, I said, my voice conversational, as if discussing the weather. I simply helped you move. It was for work, we had a project deadline. Nothing happened. You're being paranoid and honestly, this is abusive behavior. I laughed. A genuine sound that seemed to shock him into silence. Hotels exist for work emergencies. Mason. Your choice to stay at a female coworker's apartment sent a very clear message. I received it. You don't understand. Let me explain. Just let me in and we can talk about this like adults. Your belongings are at Chloe's apartment. All 17 boxes are waiting outside her door. If you need a place to stay, I'm sure she has a couch. Although given last night's arrangement, perhaps you're already familiar with her sleeping accommodations. Vivian. Please. I love you. This is all a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. You made a choice. I've made mine. Please don't contact me again. I ended the call and blocked his number. Then did the same with the secondary number he had used. The relief was immediate and overwhelming. Like setting down a weight I hadn't realized I had been carrying. My phone rang again almost immediately. This time it was his mother. Darlene. Her voice shrill with indignation. Vivian. What have you done? Mason called me in tears. He's homeless. You've thrown him out over nothing. This is not how relationships work. You don't just abandon someone you love over a miscommunication. I had always been polite to Darlene, enduring her passive-aggressive comments about my career, my cooking, my decision to wait for marriage before having children. Now I felt no obligation to maintain that facade. Darlene, your son texted me that he was staying at another woman's house for the night. I helped him make that arrangement permanent. If you're concerned about his housing situation, perhaps you should offer him your spare room. He said it was for work, and you raised him to believe that lying to women is acceptable. I'm not interested in continuing that pattern. Have a nice day. I hung up on her mid-sentence, adding her number to my blocked list as well. The collection was growing rapidly, but each addition felt like progress. The coffee shop where I worked remotely on Tuesdays was busy when I arrived with my laptop. I found my usual corner table and settled in, determined to maintain my routine despite the chaos of the last 12 hours. I had client deadlines to meet, code to write, a life to live that had nothing to do with Mason Thorne. I was deep in debugging when my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Is this Vivian Vance? The male voice was unfamiliar and angry. Who is this? Ryan Walsh. Chloe's boyfriend. You want to explain why there's a fortress of some dude's stuff blocking her apartment door? The words hit like cold water. Chloe had a boyfriend. Of course she did. Women like Chloe always had someone at home while they pursued someone else's partner on the side. I suggest you ask Chloe and Mason that question. They've been doing quite a bit behind your back. Check Mason's messages if you don't believe me. Or better yet, check the iPad he leaves logged into everything. Amazing what you can find in message histories. The silence stretched for several beats before Ryan spoke again. His voice lower. More dangerous. You're telling me they've been exonated. I'm telling you that Mason informed me he was staying at Chloe's place last night. I'm telling you that this wasn't the first time. I'm telling you that your girlfriend and my ex-boyfriend have been playing us both for fools. What you do with that information is your business. He hung up without another word. I imagined the conversation he was about to have with Chloe and felt a flicker of sympathy for him, followed by satisfaction. Let them deal with the wreckage they had created. Marcus Chen texted me an hour later. Heard about you and Mason. Want to grab coffee and talk? Marcus was everything Mason had been jealous of: successful, stable, respectful, and genuinely interested in me as a person rather than as a convenient source of financial and emotional support. We had been friends since college, and Mason had always suspected there was more between us, despite my repeated assurances that we were just friends. Tomorrow? Blackbird Cafe at 10? I typed back. Perfect. And Vivian? You deserve better. I smiled at my phone. The first genuine smile in weeks. Maybe I did deserve better. Maybe it was time to find out what that looked like. That evening, Mason called from yet another number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. You told Ryan? His voice was high. Panicked. He showed up at work. He made a scene. Chloe's in tears. You've ruined everything. I ruined nothing. I told the truth. If the truth ruins things, perhaps you should have made different choices. This was a test, he said suddenly, his tone shifting to something calculating. I wanted to see if you really loved me. If you would fight for me. That's what women do when they care. Vivian. They get jealous. They fight. They prove their love. You failed. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh again. You wanted a dog. Mason? Someone to perform tricks for your approval? I don't chase. I replace. Replace with who? Marcus? The jealousy in his voice was sharp enough to cut. Actually, yes. Coffee tomorrow. Thanks for reminding me. You're lying. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. I hung up and immediately texted Marcus to confirm our plans, making sure to post about it on Instagram where Mason's friends would see. Petty? Perhaps. Satisfying? Absolutely. The next 3 days passed in a blur of escalating drama. Mason's social media erupted with posts about being betrayed, abandoned, and abused by his mentally unstable ex-girlfriend. He painted himself as the victim of my irrational jealousy and controlling behavior, claiming I had thrown him out without warning or cause. I watched the posts accumulate, screenshot each one, and then responded with a single post of my own. No words. Just 3 images. Mason's text about staying at Chloe's, the photo of his belongings outside her door, and a screenshot of our credit card statement showing 2 years of me paying for everything. The tide turned immediately. Mutual friends who had been silent suddenly reached out with support. His co-workers, who could see the truth about him and Chloe, began commenting on his posts with skepticism. Even some of his old friends called him out for his behavior. Mason's boss contacted me through LinkedIn the next day. Ms. Natting. Vance. I apologize for reaching out this way, but I wanted to verify something. Did Mason Thorne claim to be working late on a project with Chloe Matthews this past Monday? I responded professionally. He informed me he would be staying at her apartment that night. Both called in sick the following day. Thank you for confirming. We have a strict policy about relationships between coworkers, especially when it involves dishonesty. 2 days later, Mason called from his mother's phone. his voice raw with rage. You got me fired? You vindictive bitch. How could you do this to me? I didn't get you fired. You got yourself fired by starting a relationship with a coworker and lying about it. Choices have consequences. Mason. I have nothing now. No job. No home. No money. Are you happy? I'm free. That's worth more than happiness. Chloe dumped me, he said suddenly, his voice breaking. Ryan left her and she blamed me. Said I ruined her life. This is all your fault. No. Mason. For once in your life, take responsibility. You chose to cheat. You chose to lie. You chose to test my love with manipulation. Every consequence you're facing is one you earned. His mother took the phone then. Vivian. Please. He made a mistake. Can't you forgive him? Can't you at least drop the charges? What charges? The identity theft. The police said you reported him for identity theft. I sat up straighter. I hadn't reported anything yet, though I had been considering it after discovering he had tried to use my canceled credit card and applied for new cards in my name. I haven't filed charges yet, Darlene. But if he's been trying to use my financial information, I will. Please don't. He's learned his lesson. He's sorry. He's sorry he got caught. There's a difference. And if I find out he's made any more attempts to access my accounts or credit, I'll pursue every legal option available. Saturday arrived with unexpected drama. I was reading on my couch, finally enjoying the peace of my apartment, when I heard commotion in the hallway. Looking through the peephole, I saw Mason with two large men I recognized as his cousins, Rodney and Derek. They had a U-Haul key in Mason's hand. I texted Darren, my older brother, and Skylar, my lawyer best friend, both of whom arrived within minutes. When I opened the door, Darren stood beside me, all 6 feet 3 inches of former MMA fighter, while Skylar held her phone up. Recording. Afternoon. Gentlemen, Darren said, his voice deceptively calm. Planning to rob my sister in broad daylight? Mason stepped forward, trying to project authority he didn't have. I'm here to collect my belongings. I have rights. You have no rights here, I said clearly, making sure Skylar's camera caught every word. Your belongings were delivered to Chloe's apartment a week ago. There's nothing of yours here. I lived here for 2 years. I have established residency. You can't just kick me out. Your name was never on the lease. You were a guest who overstayed his welcome. And according to the photos I have, all your belongings were returned to you. If you've misplaced them since then, that's not my problem. Detective Miller, a friend of Darren's from the gym, chose that moment to arrive, having been alerted to the situation. His badge caught the light as he approached. Gentlemen, is there a problem here? Rodney and Derek immediately stepped back, hands raised. No problem, officer. We were just leaving. Mason was attempting to break into my apartment, I said calmly. He doesn't live here, has no legal right to be here, and is attempting to gain unauthorized entry. Mason's face went pale. She's lying. I lived here. This is my home. Do you have any proof of residency? Detective Miller asked. Lease agreement? Utility bills in your name? Official mail? Mason's silence was answer enough. Sir, I'm going to need you to leave the premises immediately. If you return, you'll be arrested for trespassing. Ms. Vance, would you like to file a restraining order? Not at this time, I said, looking directly at Mason. I think he understands that he's not welcome here. Mason's composure finally cracked completely. You'll regret this. Vivian, you'll regret losing me. No one will ever love you like I did. I stepped forward, still within the safety of my doorway, but close enough for him to see the absolute certainty in my eyes. No. Mason, I'll regret wasting 2 years of my life on someone who saw me as nothing more than a wallet and a safety net. But you're right about one thing. No one will ever love me like you did. Because what you did wasn't love. It was exploitation. And I deserve so much better. Detective Miller escorted them to the U-Haul, making sure they left the property. As Mason was led away, he turned back one more time. "You'll never find anyone else like me. Thank God for that," I called back, loud enough for the entire building to hear. That night, I sat in my quiet apartment with a glass of wine, looking out at the city lights. My phone was silent for the first time in a week. No angry texts. No manipulative calls. No family members trying to guilt me into forgiveness. Just peace. Marcus and I had met for coffee that morning. The conversation had been easy, comfortable, free of the constant underlying tension that had characterized every interaction with Mason. He didn't check his phone obsessively. He didn't make subtle digs at my career success. He didn't expect me to pay for his coffee and then make me feel guilty about having money. "I always wondered why you stayed with him," Marcus had said, stirring his cappuccino thoughtfully. "I thought it was love," I replied. "I thought relationships required sacrifice and patience and understanding." "They do. But it should go both ways." We made plans for dinner the following week. A real date, where the check wouldn't automatically be pushed in my direction. Where I wouldn't have to pretend to be less successful to protect someone's ego. Where I could be myself fully, without apology or diminishment. My laptop chimed with an email notification. A potential client reaching out about a major project. The kind that would establish my freelance business as a serious player in the industry. The kind Mason had always discouraged me from pursuing because it would mean less time catering to his needs. I opened the email and began typing my response. Professional and confident. This was my life now. My choices. My success. My future. No one to hold me back or tear me down or make me feel guilty for my ambition. The city lights sparkled below, full of possibility. Somewhere out there, Mason was probably spinning his victim narrative to anyone who would listen. Chloe was dealing with the aftermath of her choices. Ryan was rebuilding his life just as I was rebuilding mine. But here, in this moment, I was exactly where I needed to be. Not because I had gotten revenge or won some imaginary competition, but because I had chosen myself. I had recognized my own worth and refused to accept anything less than what I deserved. My phone buzzed with a message from Skylar. "Proud of you. Warrior Queen. You didn't just dodge a bullet. You stopped the whole damn war." I smiled, raising my wine glass in a silent toast to myself. To my future. To the woman I was becoming. The apartment felt different now. Lighter somehow. As if Mason's presence had been a weight pressing down on everything. And only now, in his absence, could I feel how heavy it had been. Tomorrow I would wake up in my own space. Make my own coffee. Work on my own dreams. There would be no criticism disguised as concern. No subtle manipulations. No constant drain on my emotional and financial resources. Just me. Building a life that no one could take away. The last text Mason ever sent me sat unread in my blocked messages folder. "You'll realize what you lost and come crawling back." But he was wrong. I knew exactly what I had lost. 2 years of my life. Thousands of dollars. And pieces of my self-esteem that I was still working to rebuild. What I had gained, though, was infinitely more valuable: my freedom. My self-respect. And the absolute certainty that I would never again settle for someone who saw my love as weakness to be exploited. I closed my laptop, finished my wine, and headed to bed in my peaceful, Mason-free apartment. Tomorrow was a new day, full of possibilities that had nothing to do with managing someone else's emotions or financing someone else's dreams. Tomorrow was mine, and every day after that. The story of Vivian and Mason was over. The story of just Vivian, complete and whole and enough on her own, had finally begun.